Okay, so anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining today. It's quite a small crowd, so let's, if you do have questions as we come along or go along, please just pipe up. Because,
feel free to ask us, because sometimes I've been in these situations, you'll think of something, you'll keep that question, and then it's out of your head because there are so many other new areas. So do feel free to pipe up and ask questions as we're going along.
So Petra, who are you?
Oh, so I'm Petra Gent. I'm a Streatham person. I've been doing photography for about 10 years now, performance photography, and I've been involved with Eye on Streatham since last year, I guess, on and off.
Yeah. So Phil Moran, I'm about, is it 14 years in Streatham? So that's kind of getting into a longer sort of resident status.
Definitely.
A bit of a jack of all trades of photography, but I love things like event photography, and I also like training as well, actually, sharing the little I do know with others. So it's not going to be very long to teach all that I do know. But today, what we're going to talk about is bringing new life to old photos.
Which is an idea that Phil brought to me quite recently. So if we move on to our next slide. So I think it was about 2 months ago, Phil said, oh, have you looked at these new neural filters on Photoshop? I said, no, I haven't. He said, look at the colorization one, it's really interesting. And that was it, really. That's all we talked about. I think you maybe showed me a couple of things that you've been doing. And I thought, this looks really interesting. This is something I haven't done before. So I investigated, went into Photoshop, and the journey that took me on, and Phil on, I think, as he was doing this, was absolutely wonderful. I didn't realize what would happen when I started doing it. So first of all, the first thing I had to do was trawl through all my old family photographs, which was such a lovely experience. I haven't done that for a while. So that meant I was revisiting personal histories as I was doing that. And then from there, picking out the selecting of the images that I thought, well, these are really good candidates for cleaning up, changing from black and white into color. And I should add, of course, that I am lucky to be old enough to have a few black and white photographs of myself when I was really young. So that really helped as well, having those in my catalogue. The next aspect was actually the using the neural filters, because we're not just using the neural filters, so that's where the colorize aspect is, but also the whole process of cleaning up those old photographs as well. So you really start to look at the details in there, but also looking at how photography has changed so much. Just we're so used to digital photography and the way analog photography and those old prints look so different. But in the process, I found that I was able to use creativity as well through the color use, through looking at the different hues as well, the way I clean things up. And the final part of all this, which was the best part, I would say, was then sharing this with my family, sharing it with my friends. We were talking about the people in the photographs, about all of those shared experiences. So the whole process has just been absolutely joyous. I've really enjoyed learning about it and using it as well.
Because actually, I was saying to you, I got my father-in-law in India, so they suffer terrible monsoons, or they suffer monsoons every year.
Yeah.
And it's either books or photos; they all get mold on them. So these are like, he's got some proper antique photos, and over time they're coming to pieces. So what you're doing is, one, you're stopping any further damage being done because you've only changed it electronically, but then you're bringing them back to life. But it was lovely sharing those images back with him that have been reconditioned, because he was saying, oh, he was remembering the other person's eyes were a slightly different color, and these are people that have been passed away for years, and it was a really important emotional sort of gift that you can give someone. And it's quite interesting because as photographers, we often do some type of event photography. So we're recording something that is here and now. And then when we share those with people, people will really go, that's a wonderful experience. But pulling something from the past and giving it is a truly different type of gift. And I felt it's a very valuable gift to give. So I think everyone here is, as you sort of start trying yourself and you share it with your loved ones, it's a rewarding experience.
It really is. And there are different things that you start talking about as well. Like you were saying, the color of eyes, the color of someone's hair, relatives that you didn't know very well. So then you connect with your relatives and say, well, do you remember this part of them and what color their hair was? This is somebody I didn't know very well. It opens up whole new worlds. I really enjoyed it.
Actually, Gary, hi to you. Thanks for joining. So we were just saying, any questions you have when you go along with a small group, do ask.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a history of colorization, and you go, God, that's going to be a bit dull. This only lasts 6 hours, don't worry. But no, with anything, it's a bit like an evolution. So I'm just going to pick 3 highlights that I think are useful, important for us to know, and to do a bit of research. So the first one goes back to Japan. So he was known as Kimbei. So this is Japan, and going back to mid 1800s, and for the past 200 years, Japan by this stage has been under military rule, and they decided to close the island of Japan down to outside influence. So this was a very exotic place. This was almost like an alien world, because people from the outside hadn't seen what's on the inside, and then it hadn't been shared with the West. Now, it did come to the point where the Americans were forcing the Japanese to open trade. It was threat of attack, but that led to negotiations. So this comes into where we've got 2 people, Felice Beto, and he was a British Italian photographer. And he traveled all over East Asia. He caught things like the Indian Rebellion. He caught the Second Opium War in China, and he did landscape and documentary photography. And then there was another guy called Baron von Stielfried. So this guy is from nobility. And why that's probably important is because these guys are some of the first Westerners to get across to Japan. And also they're photographers. And to fund these, they need money. So this was not for the poorer man. This was not like for the likes of me. I know certainly won't say for me. But they went across and they recorded their explorations within Japan. And whilst there, they met Kimbei. So he was an assistant photographer to start with, but then he is known for his colorization. So as you see these 2 images, the beautiful images. Now, what his real skill was, as I understand in the West, their approach to colorizing photos, and these were painting on top of photos, it was quite garish. Whereas what Kimbei did was a watercolor, and as you can see, it's very delicate and it's very realistic. It's beautiful. So, but these are stage scenes. So really, by the 1800s, mid 1800s, there wasn't where we have like sort of warriors in dress. What he did do was do set scenes with the likes of geisha. Geisha were happier to be photographed than more of the common women as such. But the one on the left-hand side is quite famous, woman with the umbrella in the rain. But as a set scene, what he did, he has a glass plate and he scratched the glass plate to give the appearance of raindrops coming down. And then when you can see her tunic that's blowing in the wind, that's tacked to the back of the backdrop to give it that view. But it's worth having a look at this guy's stuff.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
But he did it for selling for Western tourists. But imagine if you are in the mid 1800s and this is the first views that you have of a really unusual society.
Yes. Yeah.
So the next guy, this is a Russian, Sergei. And I'm not going to pronounce the surname, but he was quite fortunate because he traveled across the empire of Russia, and he wanted to photograph people because he was recognizing, I've been fortunate enough to do the Trans-Siberian, and when you go across Russia, you see people gradually change, especially when you start moving into Asia. Facial features change. So he wanted to capture the scope and breadth of both the country and also its people. And so he approached the Tsar, and the Tsar gave him a train carriage on a railway, and that was his darkroom. So he traveled through Russia. So he did something quite interesting, because what he's got here is on the far right-hand side, you've got 3 images, and the images are caught in black and white. So you've got a red, you've got a green, and a blue filter. And then what he does is he uses those images, and then he projects the images through a red, green, and blue filter on the way back. And then it's a presentation on a wall. So it's not a still photo that's coming out. So it's a projection of this color of the Muhammad Khan, the Emir, that was taken. So this is where we're seeing some of the colors. So we've had the Japanese, we've had Russia. Now the next one is a bit closer to our time frame.
Yes, yeah,
definitely. And it may be something that everyone has seen. So this was They Shall Not Grow Old, and Peter Jackson, so the Lord of the Rings guy. So I think it was his grandfather that had fought in the First World War. They had hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage from BBC and also the Imperial War Museum, and a lot of this stuff had never been seen. So they did a couple of different things. One, the colorization is amazing.
It's incredible.
They did do voice acting, so you will see some voices are put on top, and sound effects. But the overall effect is amazing. So I'm just going to quickly play this video here.
There was a job to be done.
So that was really my quick introduction to colorization.
Very good, very succinct, but comprehensive as well. I love the Peter Jackson work as well. I think it just shows the difference having images in color makes, bringing something to life, making it more real.
It was so moving, like these people were brought back to life, and the end was so strange for me, was when the horror that they saw in the trenches, and at the end, when the war finishes, they feel lost because their lives are finished and they didn't want to leave. It was a very bizarre, strange end.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Now onto some of Petra's photos.
Yes, so this was my first play with colorization after Phil and myself had spoken about it. So this was me rummaging through the photo albums and finding some old family photographs. And you'll see when I actually take you through the colorization process that I used when I've done it, that there is quite a bit of tweaking, and the more you play with it, the more you get involved with it, the more you can actually fine tune those images, because it's about getting the hues correct, the brightness correct, blending the colors well. And it does take a little bit of time, but it was a really fun journey, and also, of course, really interesting. So all of these people are either me or my relatives, and then I shared them with my brother as well, and we were talking about which beach that was, which he actually thinks it was Littlehampton, but I'm not sure, and who the people were in this picnic. This is my grandfather, my grandmother, and this was a community picnic, who the people around them were. So it does bring out all of these stories when you're looking at these photographs, because you're looking at them so closely as well. Yes, those are my trials to begin with.
We're just going to move on to like how to do this stuff now. So just before we do, has anyone got any sort of stories they would like to share on this?
Have we got a sound on? Feel free to speak up. We'd love to hear about your photographs as well. I know you're looking at a lot of photographs all the time, Mark, with the Streatham Society images as well.
I was just going to, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
I just remembered actually a relative of ours, I've just been rummaging on the bookshelf, actually has written a whole book on this, actually, colorizing old photographs.
Oh.
And I've managed to Yeah, not on actually doing it, but on, I think they commissioned other people to do it, and he's done a complete book. I think he runs a press agency, and it's really fascinating, actually. He's brought old black and whites back to life. It's called Retrographic, and it's got that famous picture of the GI kissing the girl in Times Square on the front page, which I think he got colorized, yeah.
Wonderful. Love to see that. You'll have to share.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So should we get down to the nitty gritty?
Let's do this.
So what we're going to learn. So one, about exploring new photographic techniques. Two, identifying areas that need correcting. So this is
so important. It's key to what you're doing. Yeah.
We did do this because sometimes you can just like get cracked in, and then you actually need to look at an image about what am I going to do here and what's the steps.
And the steps, it's the order, because we've done this a few times. We've tried correcting it first in Photoshop and Lightroom, and then doing the colorization, but then that didn't always work on some of the images, particularly the one we're using today. So then we did it the other way around. So it does take a little bit of time. So what we're doing today is showing you the approach we found worked for us as well. Yeah.
And actually, as we did find, some images just don't seem to work.
No.
And so this is Rise of the Robots. So of course we've got Terminator coming, but actually this is AI. So this is the friendly robot.
Yeah.
But also we'll just talk about selecting the correct tool for the job. And you're going to use some very, very common tools all the time. And
subtlety is the key. It's so easy to get carried around with noise reduction or to put too much color in. It's all about that fine tuning, so that it doesn't look fake, I guess, or over processed.
I will also actually having someone good on quality review. I sent something to Petra the other day, and you were saying, oh, it was all black. There was loads of bits of black and white.
Oh,
I just didn't see it.
Don't see it. And even the one I'm sharing today, I've noticed, oh, there's a little bit of the background that I've missed on the video. But now that I've told you,
get a good quality reviewer.
Basically.
Okay, and a great, actually, as we've just been talking, a greater understanding of photographs, not so as we look to the future photographers and ourselves, but what happened in the past.
Okay, so this first one, sourcing and capturing images. Not everybody, as I said, is lucky enough to have those black and white photos that I've got at home and you've had at home. So, I mean, this is something maybe you could tell us where you might source your photographs as well. It's, hopefully everybody knows somebody who's got black and white photographs, and also capturing them, digitizing them. Adjustments in Lightroom. So Phil's going to be taking us through those, but again, it's all about subtlety, keeping it subtle, looking at those tiny bits that you've got to correct before you go into the colorization. And finally, working with the neuro filters and Photoshop to finish off.
So I just said about capturing. Now, everyone's got a different way of doing this. Now, I've done scanning photographs, and to be honest, I find it quite a laborious task. The one thing about sort of scanning is one, you get the image, and then at least you can put it in the scanner and it goes flat. But it's for me a time-consuming job, and maybe I'm just not skilled enough. I thought the image quality wasn't as good as I would have got on the next version.
Yes, possibly. It depends on your scanner as well.
Mine's rubbish.
Mine's not very good either.
So the way I like to do it is I get the camera on the upside down tripod. One, you're also going to be sort of thinking about the light that's coming into your room at the time, because especially if photographs are not flat, one, trying to make them flat, but also making sure you don't have the reflections. But once you actually get into play, you can start moving photographs through quite quickly. So this is my preferred choice.
And for me, when I have tried this approach, it's because old photographs are quite often gloss. It is that reflective light. So it's getting the light right to begin with. That takes time. But as you say, once it's set up, you're good to go. You can do a whole ream of them.
And then finally, and this could be just about where you are, let's just say if you go around to your grandmother's or something like this, and she's got the box of photos, well, to be honest, using an iPhone or something like this, you're still going to get good captures. So it's quick and easy. So starting with the basics, you've taken your image, you're going to throw it back into Lightroom. What's the number one editing tool is crop.
Always,
you'll see actually on Petra's images earlier and mine a bit later, you can make adjustments and you can tidy the stuff up, but to be honest, crop, because it's not the core story.
You got to crop it first, because you can get rid of all of those bits that will take forever, actually. So it's your key tool to begin with.
I'd say Lightroom, make adjustments to your image. So, and I say auto.
Okay.
Auto's not too shabby.
Okay.
I know I've only actually started recently using auto because I'm maybe getting a lazier in old age.
I don't use auto. This is what I should do now.
So, so you can consider auto because it's a start, and then sort of change your own, or just start afresh going down. And obviously you'll start from the top and Lightroom, the sliders going down. Then export to Lightroom, to Photoshop. And this is one thing, because I've just given up a 10-year-old Mac.
Right.
And slipping between Lightroom and Photoshop is a bit painful.
Okay,
But export to Photoshop, do the bits in Photoshop, and then export back to Lightroom. So that's my journey.
Right, okay.
So I was just going to quickly say, for Photoshop, the tools you're going to see time and time again, crop, the spot healing brush.
That's the one I use a lot when I'm doing cleaning up. It's my favorite tool for cleaning up, I have to say. It's just simple. It's easy to use.
But that is advanced, seriously, isn't it? It's very, very clever.
So much better now. Yeah.
You then do have the healing brush or the clone stamp. So it's just basically saying, I've got a bit of an image that I want to take from here and I want to put it here. So that's especially with things like textures.
Yes, I'm not a fan of the clone stamp. It can get a little bit tricky at times. I prefer the healing brush, but sometimes it's the best choice. It just works sometimes.
Eyedropper for sort of picking up specific colors that are already in your image. Brush you can do for actually painting colors on. Obviously, what you're going to be thinking about if you're painting colors, the opacity, delicate, as you move along. You're thinking Kimbai, the watercolor guy. He's going to be very delicate. But actually thinking about shortcuts you're going to have, and actually you only picked this up the other day. You're going to be doing spot healing brush. Now the size of the brush is really important. So that's rather than going into the box,
which is what I've always done.
Brackets. Like bigger, smaller. So use the bracket key. Space with, if you press the space key down, and then actually with the mouse, you can move the image all around the screen. And how many times do I do this? I do 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So Command and Z is doing the last action. So I would say steady as she goes. Small little bits,
tiny amounts. I'm learning so much from Phil as well on shortcuts. He's so good at shortcuts.
So what we're going to do is this is a very quick one of this is my sister, and just going through Photoshop actions. So one, changing the image size. It was a tiny image, so I sort of took it about 5,000 pixels. Now this is spot healing brush, and I am not this fast.
This is impressive.
This is speeded up and cut down. But what we can see on the image is we've got tears. Do you remember the old days as the photographer used to do the embossed proof on the image? So when you're starting to see this, this is a real challenge, isn't it? But by the end, we've got a pretty clean image, didn't we?
No, you're super fast on that.
Amazing.
So impressive.
But
I'm so slow compared to this.
But at the start, what I did is when I initially got this image, there was a big tear at the top. And before I fixed it, this time, crop it.
Just crop it off.
Crop it.
Yeah, saves so much time. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is, all in all, that takes about what, 10 minutes to do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the lettering. So I had a go at doing this as well. So when I was doing it, it was the lettering I found the hardest to clean up without corrupting the image in any way as well. That's the tricky bit. You will have to go back sometimes, because sometimes you lose a bit of the image.
Yeah, I think you know that Control and Z. So
Yeah,
this is
right.
do not do long lines in this thing,
Yeah,
because you'll make a mistake.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Do pipe in and ask questions if you need to. I'm sure you will do. Right, so I think this is the colorization video. So it's a little bit slow going through this because I wanted there to be time for you to see the approach that I took. So we're starting in Photoshop first of all. So I took this image into Photoshop, and the first thing I did was change it into black and white. Nice and easy. Then we're going to filter, neural filters, and then it opens it up. Now, each stage of this takes a little bit of processing. So that's the waiting bit. So the first thing you're going to do is go to colorize at the side, and the processing then happens. And this is the first colorization. So the next thing is to tweak those colors. You can use these and our good friend noise reduction, but my favorite approach is the focal points at the top. So click on an area, and this is the creativity part. So we decided to change, so Phil and myself decided to change the color of the background just to clean it up and brighten it. So we were going to go for the curtains first of all. And again, you're selecting your color bit by bit, and you've got to wait each time for that process, for the processing to happen. And you've got the green down the side. And then it saves the color for you each time to do the rest of the curtain. Next thing, selecting the color again. And again, try different things. And I wanted to go for quite some dark muted tones, so it still has that vintage look to it. And this with the carpet going down here. So the big areas are a good one to start on because they're easy, because it doesn't bleed into other areas too much. Next, looking at what the colorization has done, it hasn't picked up on the colors separately as well as you might want them to. So then I went in a little bit closer and went to the different sections of the cushion. And then once I've chosen one, and you can change the size to change the color a little bit as well as you're going along. So the 3 bits of the cushion, got them all the same. And then I went to the chair and merged that in as well. The next part, wanted to change that color on the sleeve a little bit. It was a little bit too muted. So again, playing around, matching it up with the color to the other side of it. And then the last little bit of the colorization, if you look at the wicker chair, you can see the curtain through, but it's not the right color. It's a brown. So I went there and changed that to a green as well. Then we thought we'd have a look at some of the other neural filters. There's a few different things you might want to explore in here. What we thought we'd look at is the smart portrait. Your sister's not looking at the camera there. So there's a nice little feature, which is eye direction. If you look at the bottom one there, eye direction, you might have to play around with the degrees a little bit. And I found that 30 worked for this one. And this takes longer than the colorization, this processing part. Look at her eyes as it's doing it, and you'll see she'll look at us in a little while. Just takes a little bit of time, this one. Here we go, nearly there. And if you're looking down, you can see you can do the facial age, you can do the hair thickness. We're only actually going to do one other part of this at the moment. We're going to do the be happy. We're going to change and give her a little smile. There she goes. She's looking at us now. We're going to give her a little bit of a smile. But we found the smile was a bit strange, didn't we?
Oh,
when we did it.
This gets freaky. It gets freaky. So there's certain things you should just never touch. Do not touch facial age, because that is...
Oh, I didn't try that one.
No,
I haven't tried that one.
That's...
So the smile doesn't quite work here. So it's changed her facial expression, as you can see. You can give a really big smile, which looks quite freaky as well. So then I decided to take that off. So that's the completed colorization image. So once you're happy with all of that, you can go back again and change the noise or change the color saturation a little bit. But once the whole of this is done, and then go back, click OK, and it brings it back to Photoshop.
I think it's subtlety.
Subtlety. It's subtlety.
The thing here, isn't it?
Definitely.
Because the colorization is amazing, but what happens with changing people's face shapes is it doesn't look natural.
No.
So I think there's a little bit of work still to be done there, isn't
I
there?
think so, but I was actually surprised at changing the eye gaze to looking straight up, how that worked so well, and completely changed the way the photograph looked as well.
But when you go into neural filters, as you can see there, the drop downs are the ones that they've released. There's some in beta, and also there's what's next, and then I think you can vote to say
have a play with them. They're quite good fun and a little strange, some of them as well. But it was a really nice photograph to work with that as well.
Can I ask a really silly question? I might have missed it. You might have done it. Sorry, I didn't see. It was quite fast. How did you know the curtains were green?
We didn't. We just chose to make them green. So this is where the creative.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first time I edited, so when Phil and myself started doing this, we edited that photo separately and put them both in the drive. And I'd stuck to the original colours. Phil, you'd gone for an orange colour on the curtains to begin with, and then we talked about it, and Phil played with it. He said, I quite like it with the green curtains and the blue carpet. Right. So that's what we went with. So that's when I was talking about creativity. You can actually play with this a little bit, and it's not just about bringing it back to the way it originally was. You can change it a little bit as well.
Yeah, because I think the thing is where you're seeing, as we've seen, like things like dresses, fabrics, especially more historic, like in Victorian times. I'm thinking, I don't know what colour it was.
It's not going to be bright, like fluorescent green.
No.
So, yeah.
But yeah, the points where you're specifically focusing on, but I'm not sure if you noticed, just when you finish your image, look very carefully throughout the whole thing, because it's so easy to miss black and white.
Yeah, it is. Yes, that was quite fast, that run through, but I believe this is going to be available for people to look at as well, so they can look at the videos.
But I think the best way of learning is doing it, isn't it? Is playing with it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's one aspect that we wanted to share with you that we couldn't on that photograph, because there's no sky in it, and we wanted to show you the sky replacement aspect of Photoshop as well, just because it's quite good fun. It's good to use in archive photographs. So this is a photograph of my parents on holiday in Italy that was black and white, and we've changed the sky. So the sky was a little bit messy and needed cleaning up. So the nice thing about sky replacement is you've got lots of choices. You can choose a blue sky. I'll show you a little drop down menu. And you might have used this before, but I hadn't, and Phil introduced me to it, and I just thought it was quite good fun. Make it cloudy, wispy clouds as well. You can go spectacular. I gave them a rainbow. Some bright, colourful skies, and then sunsets as well. Is
this all in neural filters?
No, this is just in edit in Photoshop. Yeah. So then I went back to the original one, the wispy one that I quite liked, and you can scale the clouds here as well, change the brightness, change the temperature, so it fits in with the hue of the photograph as well. That's quite good fun. We just thought we'd share that with you because it's a good aspect to add to it at the end.
But it's great because, especially, you know, when you go out and you go on a washed out sky, a washed out day, and it kind of can ruin an image. So definitely. You can kind of cheat maybe on any image. But I suppose the difference on neural filter is what the engine is doing is looking at an image, comparing it to what the internet has seen before, and saying, I think that is a dress, and therefore on the 10,000 dresses I've seen, that probably is a blue dress. So it's making judgment calls, whereas this is a fixed image of a bit of cloud, and it's doing that sort of selection of what I think the sky is.
It's deciding where the sky is, putting it in, and
But the scale on the scales tool on sky replacement, I thought was very important.
Yeah, really important, bringing the clouds backwards and forwards. It makes such a difference to the landscape using that aspect as well, which is one I hadn't used until you said, oh, what about the scale one? So yeah. Anyway, we thought we'd share that one because it's quite a good one to add.
So that was kind of the videos we wanted to share with you.
Yeah.
So if you don't subscribe to this guy already, on anything Photoshop, on the Piximperfect, for me, is a go-to person. It's both Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, but there's some great tips that this guy does. And also recently, we've been discussing some of the Adobe tutorials on Photoshop.
Yes, yeah, really useful. Yeah.
What was it, the walkthroughs?
Oh, so what was the one? The hands-on tutorials.
Yeah.
Hands-on, yeah. Yeah, they're really useful. I've been doing a couple of weeks going through them, and yeah.
If you've not used them yet, so what it will effectively do is you're in Photoshop, and then it will say there's one where you stick on some flowers into an antler's deer and then put them into the forest. But it will basically do your walkthrough. So press this, now go over here and press that. Now, especially I was learning a lot about masks. I know of masks, but I've been pretty lazy about learning about masks and the importance of them. But you do these, get like sort of different run-throughs about 4 or 5 times, and you go, I've got this. Yeah. I've got quite a complex area of Photoshop. So I can't recommend walkthroughs enough.
And they're short and accessible, and yeah, they're really useful.
Actually, have you guys done any walkthroughs on Photoshop yet?
I haven't, no.
But yeah, but again, another recommendation from Phil is why I've been doing them. Yeah, I found them really useful.
Yeah, excuse us, we've got
trains going on.
Trains above, so that's our noise. So they were a couple of links to look at subscribing to. So just going back to what did we go through? What did we learn, Petra?
So digitizing the image first of all, and 3 main choices in doing that. All work perfectly well. Yeah, I tend to do scanning, I must confess, because it's just easier than setting everything up. Yeah, correction.
We did that in my one. Yeah, Photoshop.
Colorization, which I am still learning so much about. There's so much in there to explore, different ways of doing it, different approaches, different strategies. And also the other Photoshop neuro filters, the smiles.
Yeah, play
the other bits.
It's amazing where this stuff is going.
Yeah, it is really interesting. It's so much out there to explore. So,
if I'm not mistaken, we've got some homework.
We have got some homework. We'd love you to do the homework for us. Because this is a process we've become so excited about, it would be good to see other people's journey. If you can source your own black and white image, if you want to follow our process or follow your own, because there are lots of ways in of doing this, and then share them with us. We'd love to see them. Do you have images that you can use or images you've got in mind in exploring this?
Do we? Yeah, loads.
You have got loads, definitely. Yeah.
What about you, Daria?
Yeah, I've actually got some old photos of the school I work at. They might be quite interesting to look at. So building rather than people.
Oh, yes, which we haven't done very much of buildings. We did a couple with Mark's.
Mark sent us buildings.
Yeah.
So that's when you're sort of looking at the greens and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And
one of the things I noticed actually when I was doing like wider urban landscapes was it would sometimes recognize the road as grass. So then you'd have to go back afterwards and change that for a concretey color. So quite often you'll have grass in place of the concrete, just something to bear in mind, but it does do that a lot.
But any questions, send them through.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. As you're going along, if something's just not connecting for you,
yeah,
ping us an email.
Any parts of the presentation that you're not sure about as well, that anybody would like to ask questions about now? Hopefully it was clear.
Can you do this on any Photoshop, or do you have to have the most recent one?
Oh, now that's a good question, because I actually had to upgrade mine to, I think it's 2020.
Yeah,
it was 2020.
I'm like on the current version, because I'm thinking the old, you know, back in the day when you used to get the CD and throw it in. I'm not so sure this is working, because this is getting updates all the time.
All the time. So I was on 2019 because I'm really bad at updating. So then I had to update to 2020. And then as I literally has been working on this in the last 2 weeks, my computer upgraded to 2022 and it had changed again.
Yeah.
So it's constantly changing. So yeah, you do need to make sure you keep it updated.
But I would just say, Mark, are you on the Adobe like sort of photographer £10 a month deal, or?
I think I am. I think I was forced into that. I didn't really want to do it, but yeah, in the end, I thought, damn it, okay, I'll just go with it.
I tell you what, we noticed yesterday, because of Black Friday, all apps, I think it was 39% off the monthly thing.
Yes, we're getting a yes there.
Yeah, I tell you what, but for me, it doesn't work, because I've just got no time to learn all this stuff.
There's so much there, so much. I'm just let down.
But Daria, do you have the Lightroom and Photoshop?
I've got Lightroom at the moment. I haven't got Photoshop, which is on my to-get list.
The value of the Adobe, I'm just sounding like an Adobe salesman.
You are.
But actually, I think it's really good value. So,
it is. The photo package on it's so good. Yeah.
And sorry, Gary, are you with us, or?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Tell us about your journey.
Well, I'm just new to all this. I'm trying to learn as much as possible, to be honest with you. But I don't have Lightroom or anything like that. I use Exposure 6.
Do you know Exposure 6?
I don't know Exposure 6. Can you tell us more, Gary?
Yeah, it's a bit like Lightroom, but it's just a one-off fee, so you don't have to keep on paying every month. It's pretty good, and you can get like a 30-day free trial. And the new one just come out as Exposure 7.
Have you been using it for long?
For about 4 months.
And does it have a similar template to Adobe? Is the layout?
Yeah, it is quite similar. Yeah, and plus you got lots of filters for like old Polaroid and Fuji. So you get that with it as well. It's really good.
Excellent. And the tools as well. Does that follow a similar pattern to the Adobe, to the Photoshop?
Yeah, it's got that, and it's also a bit like Photoshop as well, mixed in together.
Okay.
Plus of one.
Does it have neural filters?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
Oh. Let us know.
Yeah.
I'd be interested.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
Research now. Yeah.
But this is like a journey we went on, because as well with you get Premiere Pro, but then we were learning DaVinci, weren't we?
Yes.
And that's free.
Yeah.
So that's video editing software. So, but this, because Premiere Pro is an expensive journey.
Yeah, it is.
But there is like some really strong contenders out there as well. So.
I think this is it. And when it comes to Photoshop, I love Photoshop. I love Adobe. But again, it's all money. It's paying for that subscription the whole time. And if there are alternatives out there that you can subscribe to for free, then it gives you all of that experience while you're learning before you decide to actually make that investment as well.
Because photography is a money pit, isn't it?
It's a huge money pit, as is videography as well, of course. Do any of you get involved in videography?
No, I don't.
No.
Something I'm thinking about getting into.
Are you? Is that you, Gary?
Yeah, but slowly. It's a lot to learn.
Well, Phil and myself did a course earlier this year together, which we would highly recommend. I'm not if it's still running.
Not Photo Fusion.
Step Up.
Step Up.
Step Up, I think it's called. So it's connected to Photo Fusion.
That was free though, wasn't it?
It was free.
10-week course.
It was amazing. It was so good. Yeah, recommend it.
But if you can get on that, serious skills. It's not just about learning edits. It's filmmaking the whole lot. So that's our top tip.
Yeah, that's our tip today.
Okay. So we've kind of done questions.
Actually, questions, but
are there any more questions? or which just look at the cute dogs?
Look at the cute dogs. They want your questions.
But otherwise, just to say thank you guys very much. So this is the last event we're doing in 2021.
It is.
But we're going to be doing more in 22. I think we're going to be quite a lot more, actually.
Yeah, we're hoping to make these more regular.
So what I would say is, if you've got some ideas that you'd like us to cover, throw them forward.
Yes, please. Things on, I mean, there are so many things on Photoshop and Lightroom that I still need to learn about, and I'm learning from the people in Streatham. But if there's something in there you think, well, it's too much, I don't know how to approach this to begin with, a whole area, let us know and we'll investigate doing an online workshop as well.
But the other one is in-person stuff. So I'm looking to connect with some people in and around the local area for doing sports photography. So we're going to try and hook up with some ice skating people, some rugby people. So because that's something that we've not been doing yet. So
no, we haven't. And I do a little bit of sports photography, but just in schools I do sports photography. But yeah, I'd love to learn more and become more involved in that, definitely.
But if you've got any ideas for both online or in-person events, just ping us an email because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Oh, and should we mention the competition?
Oh, what is the competition?
So Streatham are also running a competition for photography in Streatham with beautiful prints of your images made for the winners. And we've got 3 categories, free to enter. Would you like to explain the categories?
Well, we've got above and below 16s.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've got Streatham seasons. So this is kind of a perfect time, isn't it? Because we're in between.
Yeah.
If you can quickly go out and grab the leaves before they fall off.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got Streatham seasons, we've got nature, and also we've got portraits, I think.
Yeah.
So they're the 3 categories. So yeah, just get out there and...
You've got about 2 weeks left to send your photographs in.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see.
Do they have to be recent photos, or can they be any that you've taken?
Very good question. They have to be taken after January the 1st, 2021.
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
So either one that you know, like archived from this year that fits in with any of those, or take the camera out for some fun.
I'm always on the hunt for mushrooms, actually. I know, Phil, you do, and I think Petra, you have as well. I've seen some of yours. Mushrooms.
I am obsessed with mushrooms.
Yeah, you know,
I'm out there all the time trying to take photographs of mushrooms. And I don't know many of them. It's purely shallow. I just like the way they look.
Yeah, I'm exactly like you. I must admit, I go out and say, I've got to find some mushrooms, you know. And you know what? I found them too.
Everyone's looking up at the beautiful flowers and leaves and everything. I'm looking at mushrooms.
Can I suggest?
I found, you know, that nice red one with white dots, the Algaric.
Yeah,
I found one on Tootingbeck Common, but it was actually, it had fallen over, you know. Otherwise, I thought, oh God. But I know where it is for future years now.
Where? Can you tell me so I know?
No, I'll tell you. Yeah, I don't mind.
Actually, I was going to say, I showed you a video the other day, a guy that does painting with light on mushrooms, doesn't he?
Yes,
and
very good.
Check the video. It looks magical. It's very like,
yeah.
It ain't that difficult. It's just using stacking. So obviously you're going to get camera on a tripod, stack the image with some sort of macro lens, but he's basically putting a torch on top of the torchlight on top of the mushroom, and it lights below.
It looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah, he's done something pretty special there. I need to do that. We need to do that, Mark.
No, don't tell Mark.
Oh.
You told me last year to go to Wakeham Place. Well, Wakeham Place, was it?
Oh, Wakehurst Place?
Wakehurst, sorry, Wakehurst. That place is just full of mushrooms. It really is.
Yeah, that's where I need to go.
It's a bad year this year, though.
Is it?
Well, I went to Sheffield Park a couple of weeks ago to get mushrooms. There were none there at all.
Really?
Well, I got one, I think, you know. Yeah.
At Streatham Common. I just go in the woods on Streatham Common.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah, we'd love to see your photographs in the competition.
Mushrooms next year.
Yeah.
New competition
category.
That's a new
one. Yeah.
But Gary, Daria and Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Phoenix, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Can I ask just one quick question?
Yeah,
Sorry?
please.
Yes, please.
How do you know you've gone too far when you're restoring the photo?
That's a very good question. How do you know when you've gone too far, did you say?
Yeah. I know.
Go on.
I know what I do
What do you do?
is look at because the first day it's almost like where you have food and it goes into the fridge over the night and it tastes better the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Have a look at your image the next day.
Yes. I was going to say exactly the same thing. I step away from it. Or
Yeah.
the other thing I do, because things are processed in different ways, I'll send it to myself in some way, either like on Facebook Messenger or privately on Instagram, because then you're viewing it in a different way. And then it's shocking. It's like, oh, yes, no, that's too far.
That's a good call.
But that's a really good question. Yeah.
What was actually, Gary, what was your experience of that? As in, like, you know, when you've edited an image and then you're going, actually, it went well, or I've gone too far.
I try not to spend too much time, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. I don't really want to sit there for about 45 to an hour editing a photograph.
Yep.
Otherwise, it no longer feels my photo anymore. So I always try to take my time, especially if I'm restoring old photographs.
Yeah, I tend to have a pattern when I'm doing. I don't know if other people do this, but I'll have a pattern of an order of the different tweaks I'll do. So I'll do that each time, and that helps once you get into that rhythm, because then you sort of automatically know how far to take it with the noise reduction, with the clarity, etc. That helps a little bit. I think experience.
Also, I used to be awful because I used to go out and take, you know, your 300 photos, and then from that I'd be editing like 40 photos, and you're thinking, I'm never going to have 40 photos. So I really do chop. You know, so if I've got 300 photos, I'm really going to have 5 from that. So, but I suppose it's a bit like the vignette, because people used to go crazy for vignettes.
They did.
That's when you know you go too much.
Yeah. Excellent question. Thanks.
And do you print most of your photos?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you print most of your photos, or you just put it online?
No, I don't. I print some photos, but I should more actually. You've been printing recently.
I've just purchased an A3 printer, and it's not outrageous. You know, in photography, there's crazy prices. This was, I think, about 200 quid for an A3 printer. It's super sweet. And the images are. But I tell you what, I've now got 5 A3 images around the house, and you keep on looking at them. When I was on Instagram, you never look at your images.
You don't. And this was the thing, going back to colorization and looking at your old photographs, is to sit and look at actual prints, to look through photographs. And I'd forgotten how engrossed you can become in that. Whereas if it's digital, you're just flicking through. You're not really looking.
There's no value. There's less value. Whereas a printed image is so different. But
do you print a lot, Gary?
Yeah, I've started to print quite a bit. I've got a Canon Pro 100. That's about up to A3 plus.
Oh, really?
Wow,
amazing. The cost of the ink is quite expensive.
Yes, the ink is so expensive.
Well, do you never? I must admit, I probably don't buy the real. I always go for the cheap.
I always go for the cheap option.
I get the real paper, but the cheaper ink.
I think that's the right choice.
Do you, Petra, can I ask, when you do this, do you use one of these graphic tablets, or
again,
do
sorry,
you think
when
you know, these tablets with a pen? Do you use one of those?
I don't. Phil does. I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Do you?
No, I've got one of these trackpads on my Apple, and that's what I tend to use. But I have got one of these graphic tablets actually, but I've never used it. It's sitting here.
I think it's faster, isn't it?
I'm not sure it's faster, but I don't know, it's another toy to play with. I kind of like it. You've got a button on the pen, so you're moving the image around quite easily. I just prefer it for certain types of tasks.
Yes, but no, it's another thing for me to spend some money on.
It's not crazy,
isn't it?
No. So,
okay.
Daria, what do you use?
I just work on the laptop, if I'm honest.
Yeah, me too. Mine tends to all be on my
MacBook.
I think I'm a little bit of a minimalist when it comes to gear. Like my camera, I sort of tend to stick to the same lenses. I tend to stick to using the MacBook. I haven't really gone down like the tablet route at all. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Ease, simplicity.
But the tablets on the I think Wacom do quite a lot, and they're
Yeah.
not crazy expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I've got. I think I got it as a
Yeah.
Christmas present one year. Yeah, great.
The socks and a
I
tie.
just thought for fine stuff you might need a pen. Yeah,
That's a good Christmas present. I'll put that on my list.
Yeah.
Christmas is
Yeah,
and
coming.
that was from a son as well. I couldn't believe it.
I don't think either of my kids are going to be fine. I'll start hinting now. Yeah, it's coming fast. And it's Black Friday. Have I missed Black Friday? Is that come and gone?
I think it's still coming because
Still
that
coming,
Adobe deal
okay.
is still coming. So I think
Okay.
it's later. I think it's during 20th. Or
Okay,
something.
I'll let them know. I'll let my kids know. Excellent.
Okay, guys. Just say
Lovely.
thank you very much for joining us.
No, I think that was excellent. It was really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
But
Thank
so,
you
our
too.
pleasure. Nice to meet you all.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Cheers. Bye.